do it already.
I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube Joel Sage. That is Christine Peirce, Cara, Tillitz, Gordon Demowski, Patrick McCray. We're here to talk about Dark Shadows, episode 367, narrated by the lovely Joan Bennett, written by Rod Sproat, and directed by Leela Swift. What an episode it is. I love how we get the opening of where Victoria is just laying in bed, and she's got new clothes on. She's got 1795 clothes on, which is going to lead me into my first question, which I'll get to here in a moment. But I love how she opens her eyes and we get the blurry view where she can't see because she fainted in the previous episode. And who do we see? Who we already saw. Abigail Collins. Yeah. So that leads me to my first question, because the last set of old clothing Vicky wore was Josette's dress in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Josette's dress. So, ladies first, what did you think of Vicky in Josette's dress in black and white, and here in this completely different dress in color?
He means you when it says ladies.
You.
It was really hard to tell with Josette's dress because it was in black and white, but I don't think it was lost in translation. She still looked absolutely stunning, absolutely elegant, like she was a member of the family. Mm-hmm. There was an air about her that was different, like you knew she wasn't from a rich family when she wore it. I think you could still tell that, even in Josette's dress. Mm-hmm. And then in color, you could definitely tell, because this was a servant's dress, and you could tell. It was very, very simple, not adorned with really anything, just a dress so that she wasn't showing her knees. So
topped with a pretty little bow.
With a little bow.
I liked it.
Patrick, what did you think?
I thought they served their plot functions well. I'm really color black and white. I mean, the Josette dress is white, right?
Yeah.
So that's and I mean, there's a difference in as I said, it's a servant's dress. You can tell that from it's hardier fabric. So yeah, I mean, she looks great in either. It's I don't really recall what Abigail was wearing, not because I was undressing her with my eyes or something like that, but that Clarice, certainly contrasted with Naomi. Definitely. The dress Naomi's wearing, and then the dresses that Jeremiah and Joshua are wearing, of course, are full of finery and no dance belts. So there's that too. I don't have a lot to say about that. They're two dresses, and they're different, and one is in color and one is in black and white.
Gordon, what did you think?
I thought they would have been better on Thayer David, to be honest with you. I'm kind of with Patrick on this. It's costuming. It doesn't really. I think it helps with the color stuff. It helps to sell the color and the background, because Dark Shadows up until that point was still kind of. They really weren't thinking. I don't think they were really thinking about how stuff looked on screen. Yeah. So I think they brought a little bit of it, but I don't think it's. Again, I think with Josette's dress, that's a Thayer David dress. That's not a Alexandra Moltke dress.
I think the Thayer David dress. I think you're right. Of course, ultimately is that yellow dress that the Jardiance lady wears.
You're right. You're
swish back and forth.
I'm lowering my A1C.
Oh my God.
Jewel, how do you feel about like the fake, I don't know, apostate Jardiance lady of The Office, sort of the secondary, the second part of the Jardiance trilogy? I assume it's going to be a trilogy, and the original Jardiance lady, which is the same voice, but it's a different performer.
It's like Dark Shadows. Originals never go out of style. So
See, I would say the second Jardiance lady is the Anthony George of Jardiance ladies.
She is
maybe not as memorable as the original, but she manages to do her job at a tough time, and she does it thoroughly.
I'm going to hell. Anyway,
Will they bring in Roger Davis as the third Jardiance lady?
well, I've auditioned, but they turned me down. Anyway, no.
That'd be good. You would be good.
Anyway, what I really love about this episode is not just Clarice Blackburn, but Clarice Blackburn not just playing a different character, but a character who was not a costumed in the Barnabas invite party that he did in the present day. Because in that costume party that he had Joshua, he had Naomi, he had Josette Victoria Winters at the time, he had Jeremiah, but we know David wasn't there for that, but from another character standpoint, there was no Abigail at all. They didn't say, "Hey, Clarice Blackburn, can you dress?" They didn't do that with Sarah Johnson.
It's not a party until Aunt Abigail's there.
Absolutely, that's my thought process.
Yeah, especially with her special eggnog.
So, ladies, first, what did you think of Aunt Abigail Collins here?
The worst. She's just the worst. like that's all I can think of.
Like, even down to the way since we're talking about dresses and stuff, even down to the way she's dressed, she's just frigid.
Got a doily on her head.
Yeah, it's like, why do you have a doily on your head?
But she's just awful. Just awful.
So she can spy on people. She pretends to be, the couch
Yeah.
or something. She gets down, does the doily, and they're resting their tea on it and all of that. No one ever knows. She was there the whole time. Master of disguise.
Does she have lice? Because the doily's not helping, but frigid.
Yeah.
She's awful.
Very ice cold. Very ice cold. Yeah.
She's never going to appear in a Maurice Binder opening credit sequence.
No.
With like the credits projected on her or something like that. Right?
Gordon, what did you think here?
How do I put this as kindly and gently as possible? Abigail Collins is a walking garbage fire of a human being.
Yeah.
Because she tries to assert herself with Joshua, and Naomi has to say, "Hey, settle down, Abigail." Jeremiah even calls her out on it. She's like, you could tell she's probably like the middle sister, kind of unwanted, kind of a bit of an oops from Joshua's parents, so to speak, and they just got to deal with her. Yeah, she's because immediately she's like, "I can see you've got the devil in your eyes." It's like, if you had one of Mrs. Johnson's boiled dinners, you would have the devil in your eyes, and some other feelings in other parts of your body that I'm not going to go into publicly.
Here's a question, because Sarah Johnson, the character of Sarah Johnson that Clarice Blackburn plays, does talk about like God and stuff at times, but this character is way more so. It's turned up 100 degrees, I would say. That character. Did the writers, or more specifically Ron Spread, I guess, did he, or just the writers in general, take this character and, hey, we sort of need a character who, sort of like the Salem witch trials, where somebody was saying, "Oh, that person's a witch," so they create that. I guess my question is, were they creating that character sort of after that kind of mold, you guys think?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the Crucible had come out. That archetype in modern entertainment was there.
Mm-hmm.
So sure. I mean, this repressed biddy type figure is an archetype in a lot of ways. And and Clarice Blackburn, she was too overwhelmingly erotic as Angelique when she did the screen test for that part. And so they said, well, make her Aunt Abigail.
Yeah, I know that video they had. A lot of times, if you try to find it on YouTube, it'll have like a parental guidance suggested. It's that hot.
Ladies, what did you think? What do you think?
I kind of would have liked her sooner as Angelique.
God.
That's a
It'd
joke.
be an interesting Angelique.
No, but that's interesting. It's like,
I wouldn't.
yeah.
I think definitely, just for the sake of the story, they had to have somebody who suspected a witch who wasn't the witch hunter like Trask was. And I think the logical choice, I mean, I can't see Naomi going there because Naomi was always, it wasn't in her character, I don't think. And Joshua, I think, is too stuffy and doesn't believe in that stuff anyway to think that. So I think Aunt Abigail was the
yeah, I mean, Barnabas would not have had warm feelings towards Naomi and a lot of issues about her if she had behaved like Abigail. It would have been, much more Mrs. Bates like.
Married that kind of woman. I don't.
I love how Abigail, Aunt Abigail, or whatever you want to call her, the real witch hunter, in a lot of ways, takes Vicky's modern street clothes and I got to go burn these, and she locks Vicky in her room, and Vicky does the best escape since the escape from Alcatraz. It goes out the window. She pulls a Clint Eastwood here. It goes out the window, and where does she go? She goes to the Great House, which I really love how it's not done. It's still, they talked about it still being built in the previous episode, and here that's what you see. It's still
Dan Curtis must have been pissed at Cy Tomashoff. You're supposed to finish the set. What's wrong with you, Cy? No,
let me go grab my golf club.
I'll finish it for you. I'll finish you
instead of the golf balls.
They should have filmed a scene where somebody hit a golf ball through the window. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, see, no, because Dan Curtis's golf thing was not like that way. But I think too, this episode is trying to
wasn't that way.
Yeah. Because this is like their first. The show is coming off of they threw in a vampire. Figured, okay, we're going to Supernatural. Let's go all out. They think it's going to be a failure, but no, unfortunately, Jonathan Frid is too good at his job. So it's like, okay, we're going to do the Secret Origin of Barnabas Collins. So this is we're going to take Victoria, throw her back here, and we're going to let the audience know that, it's the same actors, but not the same roles. Abigail is nothing like Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, very humbly, is a smoke show. Abigail Collins is not. Burke Devlin had died before this, and now all of a sudden he's Jeremiah.
I told you my idea for a Sarah Johnson board game. That would be like the Barnabas Collins board game, except you'd have to go through the house and collect a bunch of little bottles of booze instead of skeleton pieces, and get them all back in the liquor cabinet before Roger gets home.
And packs of smokes, because that's she's a smoker too.
and you have to glue together the brandy snifters.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
play the game.
Oh my God. But my question to everybody is, what did you think of them? Because this is the first time where we see Collinwood isn't a completed set. It is to fit in with their story, but we also get the debut of Jeremiah Collins, because we see Anthony George once again don the uniform. This time it's in color instead of black and white as well. So what did you ladies think of A, the Collinwood set not being completed, which I like, and B, Jeremiah Collins?
It was, I don't know why, but I was surprised that it was Burke as Jeremiah, Anthony George. I don't know why I was surprised, but we were talking about this earlier, and he, even more than Burke, fits the role of Jeremiah so well. I just think he does. He just portrays him very well. And
Anthony George.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think that
he gets to create the part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think he created it so well that now I can't even see Mitch Ryan as Jeremiah Collins.
Yeah.
It's Anthony George,
Yeah.
And seeing him in color, seeing that suit in color, much
Jeremiah
better, I think. It did. The black and white did not do that justice at all. But I'm a girl, and I notice those kinds of things. So. And Collinwood being unfinished.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really get to show you much. There were sheets and stuff on all of it, but I mean, it was interesting.
But the mystery was kept,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
we all know what it looks like, so.
Yeah, I could kind of see Jeremiah, Anthony George's Jeremiah, going around with like a glass of bourbon in some swanky apartment, jazz music's playing, and you see an overlay Jeremiah Collins After Dark, he heads to the piano, talks to Sammy Davis Jr., maybe, just kind of does the whole chill swinging bachelor thing.
Yeah. Mitch Ryan, I think, would have been very poor casting because he just has too much of a backbone.
Yeah.
I don't think Abigail would have been behaving that way even outside of his presence had he been around. I mean, that just would not have flown.
Yeah. Well, he sort of puts Abigail in her place by using Joshua. What I've noticed about Jeremiah is he's very crafty at using his brother in the right way. Like he knows Joshua cannot stand someone trying to out authority his authority. And you see that in this episode too.
Definitely.
Which I love because he tells Victoria Winters, because he says about, witches don't cry over man-made love.
That's a country song.
Is it really?
It is.
Yeah, it's a George Jones hit. It was popular, I think, 72, 73.
It was the B-side of "You're Just Another Dead Baby in My Basement of Love."
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, my first and only country CD was Garth Brooks' Pieces. Sorry.
You need to listen to more Merle Haggard, Jewel. That's all I'm going to say.
You need that blue shirt, then. You need that yoke sort of blue shirt, Jewel. You look
I
great.
haven't listened to country in years, guys. God.
You got a problem with Jerry Reed?
Who? Who?
Jerry
Patrick, I think you and I need to do a podcast with Jewel all about Jerry Reed. He needs to be schooled.
Eastbound and Down, Jewel.
And we
loaded up and trucking.
Hey, and we could do that death metal podcast too.
Amos Moses?
No.
When you're hot, and when you're not, you're not.
Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way.
Lord,
every
Mr.
time.
Ford.
Yeah, I mean, Joel, you are sorely lacking in your cultural education.
He was on Scooby-Doo, for God's sake. He was threatened. He was one of the celebrity guests in that season of Scooby-Doo. Remember that?
Yeah, the new Scooby-Doo
when they had all
movies.
the celebrities. They had like William F. Buckley and Alan Greenspan in an episode. Gene Rayburn.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Marshall McLuhan showed up in an episode.
Here's my question: What did you all think of? Not just the whole family chemistry, really, because this episode does display the authoritarian of the Collins. We have that, yes, Naomi's allowed to speak, but the moment she questions or insults Abigail more specifically, or feels like an insult, Josh was like, "You apologize to my sister." And then when Jeremiah says, "Well, unless Abigail is the new head of the household," then as Abigail goes to speak, Joshua puts her in her place. So
Right.
What did you think of the authoritarian Collins family rank here?
It was kind of funny to see that sibling rivalry. It's like, I think I'm not sure about this, but it kind of seems like Jeremiah is the youngest sibling out of the three. And, Abigail's probably the middle kid, and she's got middle child syndrome like crazy. And that's why she does the witch hunt thing, because she needs the attention. But just just because there's a hierarchy in the family, it doesn't stop the other ones from speaking up. It's like questioning the authority, questioning, who's actually right. And it's just, and Naomi gets in on that too, because, you marry the family, you marry the whole family, and it's just, it's funny to watch.
Well, what always baffled me was why did you treat your sister better than your wife?
Yeah.
Like you stood up for her more than your own wife.
Yeah.
And she,
It's like your wife is so sweet and so kind and a little bit mousy because that's the way she's been made to feel.
yeah.
And you got Abigail, who's horrible, who's not warm, very cold. But you'd rather stick up for Abigail than your own wife.
Yeah.
It's just
But he's afraid of her. He's afraid of Abigail.
fair.
That's fair.
Yeah, and plus you can kind of see where there's a kind of continuity between the Collins family. Like they've always been this messy. You know, it's like, you know, yes, we'll see in 1897 how messy it is in 1840, but we can kind of see, like, yeah, it's like typical Collins. It's almost like typical Collins BS. You know what I mean?
True. Very true.
I think too, not only that, how do I put this? Naomi, when her and Joshua got married, their marriage was arranged. And Naomi and Joshua, more specifically, come from a time where women weren't allowed to speak up to their men. They had to ask for permission. Notice that's what she does. She asks, "May I speak?" Right. And Joshua gives it to her. He goes, "You're the mistress of this house. Yes, you may speak." That's not by accident. That's by writing design, because they're trying to get the error. The writers are precise down to not just 1795, but the error that Joshua and Naomi are from, because even by this time, their time period was different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that I love in this episode, especially most. It's just really, really fun to see that kind of. The writers had a lot of thought put into this, very much so. And the way Ron Sproat wrote this episode is pure genius. Does not get enough credit as a great writer.
Right.
He is a great writer.
Yeah,
love Ron Sproat.
Yeah, he really is. He's a great writer.
He's the one who cast Barnabas. Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
So here's my question. What did you think? Or I guess my final question, really. What did everybody think of the fact that you had Jeremiah make up Victoria Winter's lie here, cover story, basically?
I have always had a theory, and it's literally all it is. I have nothing to base it on. I've always had a theory that Burke Devlin is somehow a reincarnation of Jeremiah. Like I said, it's a theory. I don't have anything to base it on. But so because of that, you know, Jeremiah, I think, feels a connection to Vicky because of whatever. And because of that, I think that he, you know, even at first sight cares for her, doesn't want to see her torn apart by Abigail or Joshua for that matter. And just feels compelled to help, you know, and does probably at first doesn't know what it is, but you know, even down to the note she runs into his arms and he's like, "Don't be sorry, I'm not." Well, why not? Because you don't seem like that. It's a very forward move for a woman of that time, and you know, he doesn't seem like the type of guy who is like, you know, a player, you know, a ladies' man, you know. And, don't be sorry, I'm not, you know.
I don't know. I think in the islands he was touring Barnabas around.
Maybe he was, and that's a backstory I wish we had. But
I think he's got high standards, and I think he's just bored in Collinsport because he also has a sense of discretion, and so he's not going to get involved with any of the weird local girls. And what we're leaving out is that he just had a really bad marriage a few years ago to Laura, and you know. So his head is in all sorts of places,
and trying to be married off to his cousin, you know, because that's John's thing too.
And I can see the Burke reincarnation element, but I always figure we don't really know what the actual ages are of the characters, and it's established later on that like Jeremiah is closer in age to Barnabas than he is to Joshua, so he's more like a brother to Barnabas than an uncle. So I could see where Jeremiah is like a little, like he's like he's like in a different time, you might be a middle-aged dad convinced he's in his 20s having a midlife crisis, except this time it's in a cool sense. He's like, okay, yeah, he married someone, she died in a fire, he's just like, you know what, I'm chill, I'm here, beautiful woman comes to me, I don't know her, but you know what, I accept it.
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can definitely see, even in this episode, that they are more like brothers than uncle and nephew, but also that Jeremiah is much more of a father figure to a degree to Barnabas.
Right.
He most likely taught more Barnabas than what Joshua did.
I agree.
It's a great job because again, Jonathan Frid isn't even in this episode. And the fact that you're introduced to Jeremiah for the first time, really, and you get this very kind, caring man, and you remember all the backstory of, Jeremiah drove the widows from Widows Hill when he built the house of Collinwood.
Like St. Patrick.
Something else I noticed too, I think when you watch, if you go back and rewatch this episode again, notice when Anthony George's character comes in, you hear a door slam. I don't think he's coming from the outside. I think there's another secret passage, only this time it's behind where the wall of Barnabas's portrait is going to hang. You hear a door slam. I don't think it's the door to the outside. I think it's a door inside the house. And he's not coming from the study either.
It's the privy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, he's grown up with Abigail. He'd do anything to avoid her.
Truth.
Yeah.
I would too.
I would.
He has secret entrances and alcoves everywhere just to avoid Abigail.
I do understand Abigail's middle child syndrome. I married a middle child.
I'm the middle child.
Well, see, here's the thing. My wife's always seeking attention, and I understand why. It's like
I feel her.
So it's like, I get Abigail, though I do think she takes it to a very, very heavy extreme. She does say to Joshua, well, let's take her to the authorities. We do see, I love what Jen Bennett's Naomi does here. You can be cruel. I love that you can see that though she's Collins by marriage, even the name Collins, I don't think gave Naomi her backbone, but it helped her with this, especially here.
Agree.
Is there anything anybody wants to add?
Ooh.
No question.
I feel like yes, but not off the top of my blonde head just yet.
I have a thing I need to do, actually related to the dead book. And so I must excuse myself.
See you, Patrick.
And I
See you,
thank
Patrick.
Don't be a stranger.
I won't.
Gordon, is there anything you want to add before we go?
Well, I love the fact that the at the end when Joshua hires Victoria, it's almost very there's an exchange where he says she's getting $4 a month, and she asked $4 as in she didn't quite hear it right, just wanted to make sure, and he's like, oh, if that's too little. I mean, it kind of shows that Joshua's kind of he's cheap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
He's cheap. I mean, even in the 18th century, that is cheap.
Yeah.
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 Well, and in the revival series, they rattle off the amount, and Barnabas and Jeremiah both are like, Father, she's not a slave, and she's like, no, it's fine, but that's kind of, I remember that, and I'm like, she's not a slave, she's teaching your child, your female Barnabas, because it's Sarah, and Sarah's, it was cheap.
Well, that's the thing too. We see sort of Joshua is looking at not just her as, less than. He looks at a lot of people like that, even a lot of his own family members. He treats them very much like children.
Yeah.
Like even though like Jeremiah is his business partner. I mean, his business partner, and you're treating this guy like he's a little kid.
Right.
Like,
Well, Jeremiah is also his brother, so
well, yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that's why you should never go into business with your family members at all.
Yeah, we really shouldn't do that.
Well, there's a difference between business and podcast. Or do you own an actual business together?
And maybe
We have no qualms, by the way. We're fine.
and maybe Joshua, seeing how close Barnabas and Jeremiah were, could have been part of his attitude towards Jeremiah as well.
Jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe jealousy, maybe, oh, you're immature because you act the age of my son or whatever,
Right.
you know, like, and
Right.
he's still, what, early 20s, maybe.
Again, you don't know the
No,
ages on
we're
this.
just
You know, you have
speculating
to.
here.
But
I
it
think that
seems
might
like
have-
Jeremiah and Barnabas are about the same age. You know.
But I've always felt like that maybe had something a little bit to do with his attitude.
Yeah, like I could see Jeremiah, Joshua's like, Jeremiah, you should be a good example to to Barnabas, and
Right.
Jeremiah's telling Barnabas, hey, let's go out to Eagle Hill and smoke some Crayolas,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like the type of relationship that they had. You
Yeah.
know, there was
Yeah.
no discipline coming from Jeremiah. It was all like, hey, let's go have fun. You
Yeah.
know, and but I think Joshua has the viewpoint of, forgive me, this is the only thing I can think of, but Squidward from SpongeBob. Everybody's an idiot,
Yes.
but so everybody's an idiot but me, and it shows all throughout this saga that Joshua doesn't think that anybody is smarter than he is. You know, that he knows best, and that's just it. You know.
Yeah.
But
I do love the closing line of Abigail makes Joshua repeat something from childhood about crushing evil. What did you think about that?
I don't think Joshua quite buys it, to be honest. I think he's just trying to shut her up.
Yeah.
He's like, remember that, Joshua? And he's like, okay, just the tone in his voice tells me he's going, okay, Abigail, I remember. Just shut up,
Yeah.
But I don't think that, I mean, Joshua remembers what his mother said, but at the same time, nobody is smarter than Joshua in Joshua's mind, you know? So I think that he didn't quite take it to heart, because there's no evidence of witchcraft or wrongdoing until the actual witch shows up.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think if Joshua could get away with getting rid of Abigail without a scandal, he would have did it.
I think so too.
I would think so.
I would too.
So.
Because there's going to be a line and I know we're way away from that episode where he says, "Oh, she saw witches everywhere she."
Well, she did know.
Yeah.
She did.
And
Yeah,
it's
I kind of wish there were an episode set during this time period where it's like Abigail and Naomi in a bare knuckle brawl, because Naomi would win, and she would just gloat over it. I mean, this would be the equivalent of the 1897 scene with Joan Bennett and Trask, where she's on the phone, like,
Yes.
where she's doing the whole, yeah, I got you now, bro.
Yes.
I
Agreed.
loved that.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Naomi would tear her to shreds. She just would.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
One good bitch slap is all you need.
Mm-hmm. It's like when Julie walked up to.
Yeah, but
Sandra, yeah.
you could see Abigail like getting up and trying again. I mean, it would be like there's this Kids in the Hall sketch where it's this like little guy trying to pick a fight with like a really big guy, and every time the little guy keeps getting down, he's like, "Okay, come on, try again."
Yeah. But if we remember, like, again, we're getting way ahead, but towards the end, Naomi she bitch slaps Trask.
Yeah.
She wasn't afraid of it. He was a guy. I'm like, why? If she did that to Trask, why wouldn't she do it to Abigail?
Mm-hmm.
She'd have done it. I trust her. She'd have done it. But
I think too, the reason she doesn't do it too, to a degree, is she doesn't want to lower herself to what Abigail is too.
Right.
Because she says Abigail could be cruel. And I don't think it's just she's afraid of Joshua, because Joshua's already Joshua tries to put everybody in their place.
Mhm.
Everybody gets equal shitheel treatment from Joshua. There's no real discrimination there.
Yeah.
Really does.
But
Everyone's a child to Joshua. Everyone is.
yeah, it's really fun to see a character just treat everybody. Wow, that character's a dick. Yeah, he treats everybody that way.
Yeah. Even Andre Dupre, who is at the same level as Joshua Collin, he treats Andre Dupre like that. You know.
Yeah.
The arranged marriage of the century.
Yeah.
This has been fun, everybody. When is the next time everybody could do this?
Let's see.
For the next episode.
I'm waiting for y'all to tell me. So it's really up to it's up to you. Let's see.
Oh, that's
I believe the 22nd we all have Penny. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
22nd.
Okay.
Other than that,
we should prep next Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. We will shoot for next Saturday at 10:30. I'm gonna go contact John Philip Betancourt, see if he'll be.
Cool. Very cool.
He will not be on video. He'll be on audio. Because he lives in California. So.
Well, I'll be going.
Trying to bring worlds together, people.
Yeah.
So, links to Christine and Cara's channel, Between the Shadows of Dark Shadows podcast. Link to their Facebook page is going to be in the description box. Go check it out. Go check them out. They're on Twitter at Lady Mongoose, at I Don't Care 13. Link to Gordon Demowski's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCrae's Dark Shadows Day Book Unbound is going to be in the description box. Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode, and I will see you all next week. Thank you all so much.
Thank you,
See you all
Joel.
next week. Bye, all.
Have a good weekend.
You too.